Welcome to the Active Marketer Podcast, where we talk about how to design, automate, and scale your business to the next level using sales and marketing automation. You can find out all the tips, tactics, and techniques you need to get more customers and sell more stuff over at theactivemarketer.com. Now, here's your host, Barry Moore.
Welcome back to another episode of the Active Marketer Podcast, the podcast that's all about sales funnels and marketing automation. I'm your host, Barry Moore, and we have another great episode for you today. My guest this week is sales funnel guru rockstar Todd Brown. If you're not familiar with Todd Brown, you can find him over at marketingfunnelautomation.com. He is the thought leader. He is an industry leader. He is the sales funnel guy that sales funnel guys go to. He's always innovating. He's always coming up with new techniques, new tactics, and new strategies. So it was a real treat to be able to talk to him. And he is just really, really generous with his time, sharing value bomb after value bomb. So this episode actually went quite long. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into two parts because there's a bit of a distinction in the middle where we talk about one thing for a little while and then we move on to another subject. So in part one of this episode, we're going to talk about levels of awareness in your customer base. So how can you design your funnel? How can you design your copy based on the level of awareness of your particular prospect? And then in part two next week, we're going to move on to the one big thing, and we'll talk about that and what that is next week. But before we get into that, of course, the shameless social proof segment where I read out your reviews from iTunes and Stitcher. This week, we got a 5-star review from David IB in the United States. He says, I've been listening to the podcast for a little over a month. I've listened to almost every episode at this point, and just about every single one, from the interviews to Tactical 20s, have been useful and inspiring. I'm new to the marketing automation world and specifically to Active Campaign as a tool, and just picked up Barry's Zero to Hero Active Campaign training course. So I'm very excited to dig into that and start implementing on my growing list. Thanks loads, Barry. There's also a PS there. It says, PS, I found the interview with Dane Maxwell, which is episode 29. Dane Maxwell from the Foundation, extremely powerful. Absolutely loved it. So thanks to both Dane and Barry for that little gem. Well, thank you very much, David. I do appreciate that review. 5 stars review in iTunes is always great. It helps push us up in the rankings and helps other people find this great content. So if you could do me a favor, if you really enjoy the podcast, head over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave us a review, and I'll read it out on a future show. One other thing I'd like to mention just before we get into the episode is a new plugin that a mate of mine, Lewis, has come up with for Active Campaign. So if you're an Active Campaign user and that's your marketing automation platform of choice, head over to automationplugins.com and check out the G-Sync Active Campaign extension for Chrome and Gmail. It's pretty groovy. The extension allows you to basically interrogate your Active Campaign account from within Chrome or from within Gmail. So if you get an email from somebody, you can open up the little sidebar of the extension there and you can see what lists they're on, what tags they've got, what automations may be running for them. You can check out all the information that's inside Active Campaign without ever leaving Gmail or without ever leaving Chrome. So pretty groovy, pretty good little extension for Chrome and Gmail. It helps save you time from jumping in and out of Active Campaign to check out your customers when they email you. Again, you can find that over at automationplugins.com. Check it out. It's well worth your time to have a look. All right, so let's get into this week's episode with Todd Brown. Well, I would like to welcome to the show Todd Brown. Todd Brown in the house. He is the sales funnel guy. Sales funnel guys go to sort their stuff out. Todd, welcome.
Thank you, man. I'm super excited to be here with you, dude.
Yeah, super excited to have you on. You know, I follow a lot of your stuff online, and you're always an innovator when it comes to sales funnels and stuff. So really excited to have you on. So I think most of the listeners probably have a sales funnel or two, or are just getting started with their sales funnel journey. So I thought we'd talk about the process, not so much the tools, but the process on how you go about creating a successful funnel. So, you know, what's the first bit? You're sitting there, you've got your new tool, 10-minute funnels or ClickFunnels or whatever it is, and you've got the blank piece of paper in front of you. How do you start?
Yeah. First, let me say this, man, that I think, number one, I think you put the tool aside because the tool is kind of for everybody, the tool is secondary. the reality is that if you look at, if you lined up a dozen of the most successful direct response marketers on the internet and you look at their set of tools, you're going to find a different array of tools being used by potentially all 12. You're not going to find the same tool set from one marketer to the next at all. Some marketers use something like ClickFunnels. Some use, lead pages, Optimize Press. There's Kajabi. There's Unbounce. There's so many different page creation applications. Just like there are so many different email autoresponder services or CRMs. Some use Infusionsoft, some use MorrowPost, some use, Ontraport, Aweber. And the point of all that is just the tool is secondary. And so the first thing that I would tell everybody is put the tool aside. The next thing is let's talk about kind of what happens at the very beginning of the process. Before you even write a single word of copy, before you, write your, craft your headline, start engineering your offer, decide on what the model is, let's talk about one of the first things that needs to be done, assuming that you have a product. Right? You're asking me the question based on somebody has a product. They know, they have a product. They know it's a product that the market wants, that the market, that they've chosen wisely the market that they're going into based on the size that these people, congregate together, that they've got money, they spend money on this particular thing. And now really, just correct me if I'm mistaken, Barry, but you're asking me like, what do you do? Okay, got the product. Now what?
Yeah, exactly that. That'd even be an interesting side question is what if you don't even have a product? But let's assume that we have something that we want to sell. So whatever that happens to be, product, service, whatever. So we're ready to go. I've been selling it on the side, or I've been selling it to people I know, and now I want to take my show onto the internet, basically.
Yep. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to assess the my prospects marketplace sophistication. And marketplace sophistication is something that was really popularized by Eugene Schwartz, one of the greatest copywriters, one of the greatest direct response marketing minds of all time. He talks about it in his book Breakthrough Advertising. Marketplace sophistication really kind of it tells us what it is that the market, our prospects have seen before, have heard before, have been promised before, have been told before by competitors. What claims competitors have made before, and whatnot to the market. And so, in essence, what it tells us is it tells us what the market will respond to and what they won't respond to. And there are really, without getting into it, because it's kind of tough to really grasp it without some visual, but there are 5 different levels of marketplace sophistication. At the very beginning, at the very first level, the very first level of marketplace sophistication is when you have a product that your primary promise or your primary claim, your primary statement of benefit has never been made before to the market, meaning that the claim that you are making, the promise that you are making has never been made to them before, right? Well, that's an extreme rarity today where you're able to make a promise that's never been made before. When you have a market that is and you have a product where the promise has never been made before, that's a level 1 marketplace sophistication. All you have to do in your marketing is simply make the promise, make the claim. The example that I give all the time when I do this teaching is the very first fat burner that was released to the market. The very first time that was released, all they had to say was take this pill and you'll lose weight.
Yeah.
Just the straight promise, the straight right. But then over time, as more and more competitors came along and introduced their own fat burners and were saying the same thing, the market no longer responds to that type of basic promise. And so then it goes to level 2. At level 2, we see an expansion of the promise, right? Where it's now take this pill and lose 10 pounds, take this pill and lose 20 pounds, take this pill and lose 15 inches, right? Mm-hmm. And then over time, same thing happens. And at that point, you can't simply enlarge the claim anymore, because if you enlarge the claim, the market doesn't believe it. It's not credible. It's not believable. It's not true. And so they stop responding. Just like today, if you and I came out with a fat burner and we tried to release it to the market and we said, take this pill and you'll lose 100 pounds,
in 20
no one's going to believe it. Yeah, or whatever. No one's going to believe it, right? It's just not not believable. And so point is that prospects go through this evolution of their quote unquote sophistication as they are exposed to more and more claims and advertisements. And what they once used to respond to, they in many cases no longer respond to those same things. That's like today, if we came out, you and I partnered and we came out with our own fat burner, and we designed the best product with the best packaging, the best design, the best formulation. We had doctors, we had the best, website look format wise, but our marketing promise was take this pill and you'll lose weight. We would get clobbered, right? Because the market today is too sophisticated for that. And so the very first thing that you got to do is you got to understand what is the marketplace sophistication level for your prospects. And ultimately, it's really nothing more than understanding what it is that they've seen already from competitors, from other individuals that they believe are offering a competing solution. And the thing that I'm really looking for two things, or what your audience is looking for, should be looking for, is two things. One, right, I'm looking to get an understanding of where are they at? Meaning, are they at level 2? Are they at level 3? Is this a level 1 market based on the promise that I'm gonna be making or I'm considering making to them? Where are they at? The second thing that I'm looking for is I'm looking to know what it is that competitors have said, how they've presented their product, their service to the market. What's been the unique mechanism, like the unique hook, the unique way that they deliver on the promise, the outcome, et cetera. Because ultimately, the most important thing at the foundation of a successful funnel is that you are saying something new and different. The hook, the idea, the angle that you're using to get your market's attention and put your message out in front of them needs to be new and different, needs to be unique, right? And so I want to know what has already been said to them. What have they already heard? Because that right off the bat tells me what I cannot say.
Yeah.
Right. And so it immediately begins to exclude certain things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to close off on that, just because you've opened that loop, and in my head, I really want to close it. So the 5 levels, never been seen before. Then there's an expansion. So what are the other 3?
Yeah. So the third one is my favorite. It's where so let me take a step back and just say that. Right. So level 2 is the expansion of the promise, right? Like we said, take this pill, lose 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. Problem is that, right, at some point, expanding the claim, blowing up the claim no longer is believable or credible, right? Sadly, what I will tell you, if you look at this after our time together today, you'll see it in so many markets, especially the internet marketing community. Is that so many marketers mistakenly think that the way to compete with competitors is to simply blow up the claim. And so they're stuck as a level 2 marketer when their market has evolved in sophistication, and they're, like, in other words, they think, oh, everybody else is saying how to get 1,000 Facebook fans. I'm going to say how to get 10,000 Facebook fans. Oh, everybody's saying 10,000. I'm going to say 100,000. And they think that simply making a bigger claim and a bigger promise is the answer. It's not. It is absolutely not the answer anymore. When you've got a market that evolves to the next level of sophistication. At the next level is when we see the introduction of the unique mechanism. The unique mechanism it's the unique piece, part, component, process, system, of your product or service that actually delivers the result. So it's, you've seen this a dozen times in infomercials. Anytime in the infomercial, when they say the secret is in the X is the unique mechanism, right? These knives never need to be sharpened. They never, right? Because the secret is in the German steel. That's right. Well, it's the German steel is the unique mechanism that delivers the benefit of never having to sharpen the knives. Right. And so, right, it's in your software, right? It's you have a software that gets people, top rankings or something like that, let's say, right? Well, if we say, right, the secret is in the unique algorithm that discovers the hidden, loopholes in competitors' websites and exploits it for top rankings. That's the unique mechanism. And the reason why it's so powerful is because it allows you to make the same or similar promise to what your competitors are making without expanding the claim beyond the level of believability or truth or credibility, but it gives prospects hope in your product, in your offer, that maybe now, this time with what you're offering, things are going to be different because of the unique mechanism, right? They're able to say, well, maybe it didn't work for me last time because the prior products didn't have the unique algorithm.
They didn't have the German steel. They had some
exactly.
Portuguese steel, right?
Or whatever, right? Exactly. And so that's level 3. Level 4, right? Like level 4 is where we see, very similar to level 2, we see the expansion of the unique mechanism. So now it becomes, it's the, whatever, iron forged, or, fire forged German steel, or German, aged, decade aged German steel, or I have no idea, but you get the point where now, right, there's a differentiator even with the unique mechanism. And you need that when competitors are coming along and they're also offering German steel. Or, right, competitors now in the fat burning arena, they're all offering Garcinia Cambogia or whatever, right? And so now the Garcinia once was a unique mechanism. Today, it's no longer a unique mechanism. But maybe if you've got pharmaceutical grade or Garcinia in double the dosage, or cold pressed Garcinia, or Garcinia with a digestive enzyme, blah, 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 that becomes
coated in German steel.
There you go, right? Made with a special algorithm that gets you top rankings, or whatever. And then the fifth and final level is when you no longer you stop talking about the product and you really are talking about the prospect's experience. Like, for the fat burners, it becomes, tired of dieting, exercising, popping pills, and never losing weight. Like that sort of thing. You're talking about the prospect's experience, and so. Yeah, I want to look at the market and I want to look at competitors and I want to see, are they all operating at level 2, right? Because I'm going to roll out with a unique mechanism and I'm going to smoke them, right? Or, right, are they rolling out are they at level 3 and they're rolling out a unique mechanism? Well, if so, what are the unique mechanisms that they're using? Because whatever they're using, I don't want to use or can't use, right? The beautiful thing is that especially for, let's say, information marketers, you can operate at level 3 indefinitely and compete successfully because you can always reinvent the unique mechanism. See, the unique mechanism, without spending too much time on this, the unique mechanism is really, in 2 out of 3 cases, it's a marketing invention, meaning that there are 3 ways to come up with a unique mechanism. One is your product or service legitimately has a unique mechanism, meaning it has an ingredient, it has an aspect that it cannot be found in any other competing products, right? That's a legitimate unique mechanism. Yep. But more often than not, that doesn't exist for most products. That might be something. There might be something there to be said about the products, but nevertheless, it's the reality of the majority of products. So there are 2 different ways that you can still engineer a unique mechanism. The first is what Claude Hopkins did many, many years ago with Schlitz Beer when he was taking a tour of their factory. He saw something going on across the manufacturing facility, and he said, "What's going on over there?" And they said, "Oh," the guy said, "Oh, whatever. This is the legend goes." They said, "Oh, that is where we sterilize all of our bottles or whatever," right? And Claude Hopkins said, "Well, why the heck aren't you telling the market about this?" Right? And the guy said, "Because every beer manufacturer does it." And Claude said, "But nobody's talking about it," right? And so if you talk about an aspect of your product or service that is not necessarily unique compared to your competitors' products or services, but it is unique in the minds of the prospects because nobody else is talking about it, that can be a unique mechanism, at least until another competitor comes along and begins talking about it. That was something that I used to teach chiropractors many moons ago when I had a company that taught marketing and practice development for chiropractors how to do. Often we had chiropractors that would put the name and model number of the X-ray machine that they were using in their practice in their marketing. Right. And they would say, why should I do that when, like, probably 2/3 of the chiropractors in my area use the same X-ray machine? Right. And I said, well, because they're not talking about it. And by you talking about it, it immediately gives the prospect the perspective that there must be something different and better about yours, or else why would you mention it? Right. And so right off the bat, the third way is the most common way. And we see it all the time in the internet marketing space. And that is really by turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And that's often done by giving a proprietary title or proprietary name to a generic or known methodology. And so a great example of that is what Ryan Dyson and Perry Belcher have done, two very sharp entrepreneurs, marketers, great at what they do. So this isn't a criticism. This is me tipping my hat to them, if anything. But there was a point when they released their, funnel creation methodology. The foundation of that funnel methodology was the tripwire offer, right?
Yep.
And the tripwire offer, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, is really nothing more than an ultra low price, low barrier of entry offer designed to make it extremely easy for a prospect to become a customer, right? Is it new? Is it brand new? Is it a new thing that Ryan and Perry invented? No, not at all. It's been around for many years. But what they did do was they took the ordinary, just a low price, low barrier of entry offer, and they rebranded it, so to speak. They retitled it as a tripwire. And now that tripwire is part of the unique mechanism of their methodology. So when they first rolled that out, what a lot of marketers said was, you know what? That's why my funnel hasn't worked up to this point, because it didn't have a tripwire. And maybe now, once I sign up and I pay for this thing or whatever, and I do use a tripwire, that's why it's going to work now. Right. And so the unique mechanism becomes the thing that gives your prospects hope.
Yeah, in that case, that's an interesting point. It wasn't like a new idea. They just kind of basically dusted it off, gave it a brand name, I guess, so that people could hang their head on and they could easily identify with it.
Absolutely. It is one of the, it's a tactic that you see used all the time. And, all the time, it's rare that there really is a truly new strategy, or I should really say tactic. Most of the time what you find is that there's a new name, a new title, or there's a slight twist on it, and it's given, it's assigned a title, and that's the beauty, is that it allows you to have a unique mechanism. It allows you to present and offer and talk about something different. It allows you to not market and sell the generic, which is, selling the generic or commodity is never a good thing anyway. But yeah, one of the more powerful tools for the serious marketer.
And it gets everybody else talking about your product, because if you go on any internet marketing forums or anything, it's always a tripwire this and tripwire that. And so, it's like turning your product into a verb almost.
Yeah, it's funny too, because this is, I tip my hat to Ryan and Perry for kind of indoctrinating the market to such an extent with the whole idea of a tripwire, where today people believe that, the only successful front-end customer acquisition offer is a tripwire, and that everybody who's anybody in direct response uses a tripwire. Well, the reality is, if we're really just being brutally honest, the reality is that couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. That most of the biggest marketers, whether it be my friend Jay Abraham or Rich Schefrin or look at Frank Kern, look at my company, look at Jeff Walker, Dan Kennedy. They don't use a tripwire, right? They don't start low. And so, that's not to say that you can't start low, and that's not to say that there isn't a place for a low-priced offer, but this idea that it's the only way to have an effective front end is just not accurate.
Fair enough. So to loop back there, so you go out into the marketplace, you see what the level of sophistication is for everyone who's currently there, and then, what are your competitors doing? Is it really just so let's say everyone's at level 2 or level 3, is it really just as easy as going, right, okay, that's where the market is, I'm going to jump to DEFCON 4 and with my funnel?
Yeah, I mean, it is, I tend to migrate towards a level 3 message because, you can always, you can always differentiate by introducing a new, unique mechanism. But yes, it is like looking at where is everybody operating at. It does a lot of things. It tells you how easy it's going to be to do well in that arena or with the new offer. Like if everybody's at level 2 and you roll out with level 3, you're gonna stand out. Your marketing message is going to stand out. And so it does a lot. But to answer your question, yes. If everybody's at level 2, I'm going to level 3.
Fair enough. Wow, love talking to Todd. He's dropping value bombs left, right, and center. And if you want to find out more about him, you can head over to marketingfunnelautomation.com and check out all his stuff. He's got a great blog over there, lots of products if you want to get into the sales funnel space. And don't forget to come back next week for part 2 of the episode where he continues to share all his great knowledge about sales funnels with us. I really appreciate him. He's a really generous guy. Really knowledgeable guy, and I think you'll really love part 2 of the interview as well. And I would like to thank you, the listener, for stopping by. I know you got lots of choices to how to spend your time, so I really do appreciate that you're spending with us. We like to put out really valuable information for you guys, tailor it to exactly what you'd like to hear. So if you want to hear any subjects covered on the show, by all means, just send me an email at Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, at theactivemarketer.com, and we'll work it into the rotation. Or just stop by and leave us a comment in the show notes. Down below the show notes, you'll see the comment box there. Just leave us a comment about what you'd like to see, and we'll work it in. And you can find all the show notes from this episode over at theactivemarketer.com/Todd1. That's TODD and the number 1 for the first part of the interview. And if you'd like to check out our tagging guide to help you get started with tagging, head over to theactivemarketer.com. Check out the sidebar there, and you will see our tagging guide. Download it for free. It tells you all about how you can get your tags and tagging sorted out in the marketing automation platform of your choice so that it doesn't become a giant mess that you've got to sort out later on. Have a plan before you start. That's the best way to get quick results. So we'll see you next week. In the meantime, get out there and design, automate, and scale your business to the next level using sales and marketing automation. See you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Active Marketer Podcast. You can find the show notes and all the latest marketing automation news over at theactivemarketer.com.